How is
It says we're live now on my screen.
How is everyone by you, Paul? Any COVID cases? Oh, you're muted. Paul is muted.
And you can start whenever you're ready, Ayer.
Okay, Paul is muted, just to be sure. Okay, good evening. Today is the July 13 Architectural and Review, Historical Review Board meeting. The next meeting, I don't know where it is. I don't know, maybe on July 27th, 2020. And tonight we have a short evening. We have 3 applications. The first one is 39 Hamilton Street, Regency Centers, which they asked to be continued. So I make a motion to continue this application until the next meeting. We have a second. Paul seconds, all in favor. Thank you. Hi, Dipti.
Hello.
Hi, Dipti. And
Hello.
next on the agenda is 20 Summit Terrace. It's a deck and window and door that also applicant asked to be continued. So I'll make a motion to continue this application. Second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dale seconds, all in favor. And we have 12 Irving Place, next application. Kasper Tokarski.
We don't have anybody in the attendees yet.
All right, so we'll wait a couple of minutes.
Jen, did you get my email? That I forwarded?
I did, I sent it.
Okay.
All right, so maybe I will mention my 3 comments on this application just while we wait for the applicant. The first comment of that I see is that I will require, I will try to find out what's happening to the maple tree that is on the street, because according to the records, they don't have a permit, or the planning board was under the impression that the tree will remain. And if the tree is removed, I understand that from the record that the applicant was about to leave the tree in place and go around it to access the shed or the garage. Or in the event that they would pursue a tree removal, the planning board was requiring to have a sidewalk. So we need clarifications on what's happening to the maple tree. And the second thing was I will require the applicant to have an elevation on Irving, which shows the house and the accessory structure together in the elevation to see how they relate. They seems to have an issue with stylistic coherence with the 2 houses, but otherwise the other house, the big house is the main house seems fine. There are issues of
Chairman,
the window. Yes.
Casper's here. I'm going to promote him to a panelist. I'm sorry.
Why don't we start reviewing the application? Yes.
Casper, can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, let me try to Good evening, everyone.
Hi, how are you? Yes,
Pretty good. How's everybody doing tonight?
yes, very good.
Okay, so let me just open set of drawings 1 second.
Don't forget to state your name and
Sure. Give me 1 second.
And then building permit,
Mhm,
submittals,
mhm.
2000, yeah, and then full set.
Okay, this is working. All right, so my name is Kasper Tokarski. Right on my side is Isabella Tokarski, my wife. We're here today for 12 Irving, which is basically hoping to be for our future residents. What we have done is we have worked with the architect to alter the drawings. We have made some changes, so we submitted to the board copies of the drawings, hoping that we would get a review on them and see how we can move this thing forward. So the board can tell me what exactly is going to be needed, but what I can do is one by one, I can present the drawing if that's okay with the board. And I'm not sure if in order to do so, I guess I would have to share my screen with everyone. And not
Yes,
exactly.
please. You should share your screen because
Yeah.
the application is not everybody access the
Okay, so
attachment. So please, just a brief description. I believe that everyone on the board will have reviewed the drawings.
okay, so there is I have a button which says share screen, but it says that host has disabled screen sharing. So I guess I would need permission.
Jen,
Yep, I just gave you permission. Try again.
Okay, that's super. Let me just see.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Let's see how that works. Okay, so I hope everybody can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, so this is basically, let me just see how I can get a control of it. Okay, so this works out. Okay, here we go.
That's the
So,
general.
so the first page is basically general notes showing basically all sorts of tables, calculations, and I guess diagrams. And if there is any questions on this, the board can let me know. But I would propose to go to the next page.
please.
So the next page is basically what we have is. Let me start here. This is again. Oops, 1 second. So this is existing lot. This is basically Irving Place and Ogden Avenue. There is existing two-story single-family house that we're proposing to take down. And there is existing driveway and existing concrete pad, which everything is about to be removed. What we are proposing to do is we're proposing to turn the house facing from Irving, which currently existing house faces the Irving Road, Irving Place. We propose to turn the house towards Ogden Avenue. So the front entry is basically facing to the Ogden, but the garage, which is the accessory building, still has an entrance from Irving Place. So what we have done is we have asked previously the board about compliance with the setbacks. The setbacks, I guess from the board, we got an okay that in the front, we're going to remain the front setback. And from the Irving, we would be is basically complying with side setback, which is 10 feet. And for the accessory building, what we have done is we have complied with the 5-foot setback from the property edge.
Right.
Any questions on this?
No, actually, we are on the under the third or fourth review, so we are very familiar with
Yep.
the house of roll. So you can.
Okay. So the house, so those are front basically I'm sorry. Those are front elevations for the house. So what board is going to find different from the previous basically drawings is that we were able to lower the main roof on the house by about, I think, a foot. What we have done is we have put the roof framing directly on the second floor plate, which allowed to do so. The dormers got readjusted, so they're more in the center of the building. Before we had an issue with the dormer placement. They were resized, so in our opinion, that's basically what fitted nicely. What we had done, there is a portico also that was created over the front entrance. Previously, we have shown a gable roof facing Ogden. Right now, we switched it, and we, as per board suggestions, we converted it to a front portico with decorative railing over it, which we actually do like. On a basically rear elevation, what we have changed is we have changed the roof over the entrance to the rear to the mudroom. Again, as the board suggested, there was a shed roof before. We converted it to a hip roof, so there is three side slope to this roof, and the stairs versus entering straight onto it, we turned the entrance to the side. Basically, the roof again dropped a little bit lower, and with this, the chimney is just a hair lower than on the previous drawings that the board have seen. This is the elevation from Ogden side. I know we've been talking to the board, and this is again the same roof that I just mentioned in the back, the front portico. Pretty much everything remained the same. As the board can see, what we've done is we kept a water table on both sides of the chimney. And then the chimney we've done as a straight continuous run of a siding to give it a little bit different accent than from the entire house, just to make it a little bit more appearing as a chimney than the rest of the house. What we have also is we have this is basically facing the left side elevation from the front, which is facing the neighbor along on the left side of the Ogden. Again, with this, not too many windows on this side, we can see a portico and a re-roof detail with a little bit of the dormers showing. What we have done is we have included on this page the finishing schedule, which is siding, roofing, and exterior trim and windows. So for the siding, what we're proposing to do is a smooth lap siding, which is basically its biggest competitor is Hardy plank. And I guess the board definitely heard about Hardy. It's pretty much the same material, but a little bit different color. For the windows, we're proposing to use Anderson 400 windows with black clad on the outside. For the trim, we're proposing to use PVC material, which is very commonly known as AZEK board, or I guess we're going to be using a little bit different manufacturer, Versatech, but it's a basically PVC painted white vinyl. Not vinyl, white PVC painted trim. For the shingles, it's going to be standard, basically asphalt architectural shingle. Does board have any questions for us on this page?
How about the leaders and gutters?
Aluminum white, basically leaders and gutters.
Okay.
I mean, we are a little bit on a budget edge with this house, so I guess there are a little bit better options available, but if board is okay, that's what we would prefer to do is aluminum white, 2x3, I guess, or 3x4 downspouts and 5-inch residential white gutter.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to the next page. Next page is basically the sky exposure page, and I'm going to start with the front elevation. So before the board noticed that this peak of the house was actually encroaching into the sky exposure plane. As I mentioned before, we were able to lower the roof, and due to that fact, the actually sky exposure from the left side neighbor on Ogden is clear. What we have done, because the grade drops towards Irving Avenue, we have done the first line that encroaches into the house is the Irving Avenue sky exposure. And that, unfortunately, the house encroaches a little bit into. I mentioned it to the board. On the other hand, what I did is, as the architect, to put a line from the edge of the road, which is basically, if we look at the 10-foot mark and the edge of the curb of Irving Place, the sky exposure pretty much clear, but I do understand we're not fully in compliance with the height sky exposure restriction. What we have is, now I'm going to present the back. The back pretty much does the same thing, which is just a mirror image of the front. So the compliance is on the neighbor's side, but we're not compliant with this little peak of the roof that encroaches, and obviously the chimney. From the front of the house, and this is something that we touched to the board a little bit as well. And I guess our impression was that it would be okay if the peaks or eaves of the dormers encroach a little bit into the sky exposure line. So we have the two front dormers that unfortunately will be encroaching a little bit. In the back, there is no, per previous conversations, there is no sky exposure requirements for accessory building, as it's restricted to maximum height. So we are not showing the accessory building, the garage. And the same kind of goes for the neighbor from the left on Ogden. Basically that little peak of the roof encroaches, and again, not shown for the accessory building in the back. Does board have any questions on this page?
Okay.
Okay, going to the next one. So next one is basically a street view, as accurate as we were able to get it. So this is 12 Irving Place, which is the brown house here, which is future houses proposed here. This is the neighbor over Irving Place, which is the house across the street. This is the closest neighbor on the left as we're facing our house, which is this, and it's 40 Ogden, and then 44 Ogden. So I will zoom. Okay, I guess this is the best I'm going to get it. So these three houses are basically on the same side, on left of Irving, taking into consideration that the grade considerably goes up. The house is a little bit taller than the neighbor's house. This is a fairly tall house, which is the 44 Ogden. It's actually, the house faces from the edge. So, from the to the Ogden from the tall side, and there is two tall gable peaks on it. So this house is actually a very tall house. Our house, we try to comply with the height restriction to the maximum building, which I think we got it nailed down. And, and like I said, with this, I hope the board doesn't have any objections to how this actually appears right now. Over here, what I want to mention to the board is this unfortunate tree, which there is a picture on the side of it. That tree unfortunately lands in our driveway, which we're going to discuss in a little bit, but this is a picture of the tree, unfortunately, in the winter time, so there is not too many leaves, but this tree we're proposing to remove. Okay, is there any questions on this page?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Next page are the layouts. The layouts are pretty much what the board has.
Casper, it's fine. With the layouts, we review them. Why don't we keep going to the accessory building?
Yep, the accessory building, it's basically storage on top with a garage on the bottom. We weren't able to fit the two-car garage due to the calculations. So what we've done is a one-car garage with the side entry doors and basically a storage for whatever household goods on the top.
So it's a one-car garage.
One-car garage, correct, with loft above it. Okay. This is a roof diagram. Main house, basically, it's a hip roof with two dormers in the front. The car garage has a ridge line parallel to Irving Place with two dormers basically sticking out, and there is, as on the previous elevation, go back, the roof actually, we tried to break up the wall so it doesn't look like one great wall, so we introduced this little roof across. Okay. This is the landscaping plan. What we propose to do is basically after the house is relocated, there is a whole bunch of shrubs and that would get cleaned up. The site is actually.
Just a quick question. Sorry to interrupt. What's the distance between the driveway in the front?
Can you be between?
Driveway in the front. What's the difference?
Oh, the front of the.
No, on the driveway for the accessory structure for the garage.
And you mean the distance from Irving Place to the accessory structure?
No, the distance, the width, and on the street, the curb cut.
Oh, the curb cut. 1 second. I would have to. Where is it, Isabel? Can the board give me a second? I would have to just look at. Okay. The curb cut.
You got 18 feet.
18 feet, 10 inches.
Thank you.
And this is meaning, yes, for the curb, yes, 18 feet, 10 inches. Okay, on this page, what we also propose, we would like to do a fence. The fence is outlined here and here. This is a picture of the fence we're trying to do for a wooden fence with a lattice top. These are basically a few light fixtures that we would like to put by the front entrance. There is a hanging fixtures by the side of the garage doors. There is this fixtures also by the side of the rear entry mudroom and the slider door. That would be that fixture that would be installed.
Those fixtures aren't code compliant.
Right, but
yes.
there is a note that says that they should comply with section 300-4.1. Make sure that the way that you show on the pictures are not compliant, but that's an easy fix.
Okay, and we have a note, all exterior lighting complies with section 300-41 over here.
Yes, I see that, but the fixtures that you show in the drawing are not compliant. But you look at the requirements of the section and you make it compliant. It's not a complicated issue.
Okay. Now, number 10 is electrical layout. Is there any questions about it?
No.
Okay. Number 11 is the section cut through the building and a detail wall section. Any questions on that?
No, it's okay. Keep going.
Okay. Number 12 is basically common, details, construction details that the architect, I guess, typically puts on the drawings.
Okay.
And this is all that I have for the board for tonight.
Perfect. Thank you. Anybody wants to start with comments from the board? Deepti, Paul?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. The first question I have, Casper, by the way, Casper, this is a great improvement. Really, it looks great. I hope, that all of it works out for you. Thank you. What kind of chimney are you installing? Do you know?
Yes, we're proposing to put a wood burning fireplace. Wood burning fireplace which is not a real masonry fireplace. It's an insert. What we're hoping to do is put a gas log insert into it. So this way we would have to run a flue vent, and the flue vent can be done as a direct vent or all the way up to the top, just to improve the view on a house. What we've shown is the flue going all the way up to the top of the chimney. And the chimney itself, it would be a wood frame with hardy plank siding and corners.
The only suggestion I have with the chimney is that if it is a wood burning chimney, you may want to check the code on the height. Typically, there's a code as to how high it wants to be. It doesn't look like it's high enough. So you might want to check the code on that. That was question number one. On the roof plan for the garage structure, you have dormers shown on the roof plan, but you have shed dormers on your sections. I think it's just a glitch on your drawings. You see those, yeah. You see the shed, the dormers that you're showing here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. Are not the dormers that you're showing on the section. On the section, you're showing shed dormers, unless I'm misunderstanding the drawing.
So basically what we're trying to do, and let me just, hold on, this is just basically the wall is the same plane of the wall goes all the way up, right? This is just decorative, overhang nailed to the side. So I guess I see your point. What you're referring to is that line that's shown over here basically should disappear.
No, I think that what you're showing on this proposed house, oh, I see, that's for the house, it's not for the garage. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
The house does have two dormers and the garage is basically two full, yes, but
It was on this drawing, so I thought you had different dormers. Sorry. No, you're right. That's fine.
okay.
And then the last comment I have, and this is something that's an option, again, I have no objection to the way the whole house looks, is if you go back to the rear porch, you change the roof on that, and definitely an improvement. However, what would look even a little better is if there's some way you can, I'll wait until you get to that drawing. If you can make these columns a little wider, spread out so that, it doesn't look so constricted as you go into the porch. It's, it's something that I'm recommending. It's not a requirement. I think it'll just look nicer, and I think you'll feel better once you go in through there, especially since your garage is not attached to the house. You'll be using that door a lot, right? It's going to give you nice protection in snow, rain, whatever. I think if it's a little bigger, you can spread the columns out and make it a little bigger. I think it'll look much better.
Yes.
Our impervious coverage is really right on the edge, and we were actually, unfortunately forced to.
I have your solution, Casper.
Go ahead.
Okay, but let's Dipti finish first.
No, that was it. I'm done.
Okay. All right. I agree mostly with the comments of Dipti. Thank you. It's a great improvement. The main house is. I believe that if you add the details of the leaders and gutters, the drawing will look much better. I agree with Dipti. The rear entry needs a little air, so you can expand a little bit on the right and the left. Just I would say 6 inches on each side. It will feel less tight.
Okay.
And also, if you can, I know that's a budget job, etc. Just on the Irving Place facade, if you can add windows on the second floor, kind of.
Now, what?
Because it's the house is coming very nice. So if you add, let's say, I saw the floor plans that you have the door on the axis of the door. Maybe you have like a small window on both rooms, or one window, whatever. It will add some balance to the facade. And remember, this is a corner. It's the corner of the house.
I do remember. I want to point that this is our north side. So this is the side that faces north, and I just want to point out one more thing that let me just go to layout. So this is if you're basically thinking like we would have a little bit, I guess, struggle with bed placement. I mean, we do comply with the light and ventilation requirements. So I mean,
this is nothing to do with compliance. This is with
just visual. I mean, if the board could let us go without the window, we would appreciate it.
I will let you go. It's just a suggestion for a nicer house. That's all.
I mean, trying to widen up the roof. I mean, I'll definitely look into the coverages, and we initially wanted to get a larger roof, but unfortunately with this we were squeezed a little bit by the numbers.
Okay.
So if it's feasible-
Let's go to the main issues. The main issue is the sky exposure plane, which is a minor encroachment. I will recommend to be accepted. On the maple tree removal, you mentioned that the width of the curb cut is 18 feet. You don't need for one car garage 18 feet. You can do with much less than that. And you may be able to save the tree. And unfortunately, I drove many times by Irving Place, and that tree is really dominant. And I will assume that, I don't know, you have to get a special permit to remove that tree. So that might be an issue. I strongly recommend to reconsider saving the tree, but it's not my purview. It's for the Special Commission on Trees. The second comment, or another pertinent comment to that tree removal is that I understand that the planning board was under the impression that you're saving the tree, so that might be something that you might need to talk to the planning board about it. Or there was a discussion, as I understand, on the sidewalk, if not tree. So that's something that you need to discuss it, because I don't see a sidewalk. It's not that a sidewalk on Ogden, I understand. A sidewalk on Irving is not necessarily something that I will look for favorably, but saving the tree, yes. So that's my comments on the trees. And you can manage to have a single car curb cut and then open up the driveway in the back. You have plenty of room in there, behind the tree. That's something for you to consider. I mentioned to you the compliance with exterior lighting. I mentioned to you the gutters and leaders. That's fine, and that's it. And please, can you provide us, and you can email it to us, an elevation on Irving Place that shows the main house and the garage together, how they relate to each other. It's just a simple elevation, just to see if we pick any comments on that, because it's difficult from the drawings that we receive to have one next to the other and see
Understood. Yep.
the
This is
relationship
no problem.
with them. Otherwise, I have no more comments.
And I have one question. So that email is not a separate filing. So just basically, if I can email it as a, after, a couple of days, whenever we have it ready, as a separate, email to the board, right?
You can email it to us. If we have any comments, we'll get back to you. The other question I have for you, which I mentioned to Dan, is the issue of the well on the corner of Irving and Ogden, the window well. You might want to have some hedges protecting that nobody walks in there. Yes, that one.
Okay.
Because it's kind of deep, and you don't want a kid going into places that they shouldn't. That's all.
Correct.
Have a code for that anyways. If it is a certain depth, you need a railing on it. I'm
Correct.
sure Dan and Ed will get on to it.
That's
You
right.
might want to check
Maybe
that.
to that, yes, we have to check that.
Okay.
I'd like to make a comment that I agree with both Dipti and
Yes.
Ayer that the house looks great. I think it's
Cas-
considered improvements on the initial proposal. I also agree with the air about the house facing Irving Place, that a second story window. I think particularly because it's fronting the street would be a more attractive and beneficial to the community. And of course, I also agree about the maple tree. When you look at the elevation of the street, one of the most interesting parts of the house, and really what really makes the house is the silhouettes of the tree behind it, and it would be a shame to lose that tree.
It's an important presence on the street. It's not, and I truly believe that you can work around and have what you need, which is maybe a 2-car in the front of the garage driveway and a 1-car garage. You can work out there.
You know, it just with this, you know, our biggest issue, so the board understands that, you know, we have a son who drives, and you know, my wife drives and I drive. And basically, so we're thinking about 3 vehicles, you know, that would be using the garage and the driveway.
So
And yeah.
what you're telling me is, what you're telling us is probably not what we want to hear, but that's okay. Because we are trying to balance the benefit of the street. It's not a parking lot, basically.
Oh, no. And I'm, you know, by all means, I mean, there is, you know, limited.
It's a 20-inch tree. That's what we're trying to protect. You know, I understand that you have many cars.
Okay.
Maybe you wanted to buy a bigger lot, but that's different. Sorry. Okay. Any other comments? So Dan, I believe that this is a referral, correct? Dan?
I think he's muted, Yair.
We're frozen.
Oh, now frozen. Yeah. Dan, is this a referral? It's a recommendation.
Yes, they'll have to notice again for the next meeting before we could vote on it.
Okay. So Casper, thank you. For anybody else, Dale left us?
No, I'm here. I think you covered everything.
So then I guess we make a motion to continue this application, and please send us any email or any comments before the next meeting, so we can, you know, discuss it ahead of the vote next time.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Okay, so I make a motion to continue this application.
Second.
50 seconds, all in favor. Thank you. And make a motion that we adjourn this meeting for tonight. And so do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Have a good night.
Have a good
Have
night.
a good night.
Everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.